Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another one-man review. So I'll be taking a look at a older book from No Brow Press, back when they were doing these nice, beautiful hardcovers and all of these things. This is Eileen Gray, A House Under the Sun by Charlotte Malter Barth and Zoisa Dierzawska, I think is how the closest I'm going to get on either of those names. This is a piece of comics biography about a artist and architect, Eileen Gray. It's pretty like these little snippets of her life, giving you an overview of her life and her impact in architecture. Especially, this starts out in 1965 with Le Corbusier dying in front of his own house, and I believe the suggestion is that he has bought this house that Eileen Gray built and designed. They're going in and showing her influence and how it was, a bit overlooked in the field, but how influential she was in modernist design. So you start here in 1965 and then you jump back to 1933. There's a lot of time jumps back and forth. You can see the art style in this book is this really nice like pencil line quality to things. It looks like it was probably done physically, but it might be a digital pencil line. But it looks like it was done physically, maybe with some ink washes in there as well. So you jump back and you meet Eileen and her husband, just kind of having a conversation here. And I like this quote: "Life can be incredibly heavy and lonely and utterly miserable." Um, Sometimes I feel that way, but I feel you, Eileen. I feel you there. And then from there, you just jump around back and forth to different points in her life. You meet a young Eileen in Ireland in 1888 and get a sense of her as like an intelligent, precocious child. There's some really awesome compositions throughout the book that are playing with a like modernist kind of aesthetic, like using the chunked up nature of the house, everything being in rectangles, to create some of these big compositions. The majority of the art is happening on like a grid type of layout, but every now and then you'll get these more playful ones. You learn about how she started as an artist, as she started becoming a master of lacquering and working with wood. And so there's a bit of an explanation here about what lacquer is. You get some of the tools shown. Nothing really in depth, which I think is my biggest disappointment with this book, is they're presenting a really interesting character that I would like to know more about, but some of it's due to like the layouts. It's not a super short book, but it could have maybe been longer. I could see why you couldn't do a big volume like that though to cover the artist's whole life. So within the constraints of the size of the book and the pacing of the book, they do a lot to kind of give you hints at the full richness of the character's life. But things like lacquering, I don't know, there could be a lot more like diagrammatic information stuff that could be interesting. This is another page where I really like the layouts where, the characters are interacting with the plan, the blueprint of the house that they're going to be living in. I also like the sentiment expressed here. Eileen's saying the poverty of modern architecture stems from a lack of sensuality. That's the real problem. Everything is dominated by reason. A house is not a machine to live in. It's an extension of the inhabitant, the release of their emanation. And I like that idea. At Berkeley, UC Berkeley, where I went to undergrad, a lot of the buildings were built around function over form, and so you would have the raw guts. Like I would sit in classrooms where you'd see the pipes along the ceiling, or there'd be a pole right in the middle of the class, kind of blocking your view. I always thought those buildings were pretty ugly, but I do like a modernist aesthetic in general, and I think you have someone like Eileen Gray or someone like Frank Lloyd Wright, who's kind of designing in, especially Frank Lloyd Wright, where you've got wood and stuff that feel a little more natural. Like to me, that's kind of an ideal design aesthetic, is the clean modern aesthetic, but with a little more warmth and life into it. So I really enjoy that, and I enjoy that she is seeing that and adding that, and that's part of what really makes me interested in her as a character. I will say that like the house that they're showing to me looks like a pretty typical modernist concrete box that has no life in it, but I don't know. I do like that they can get up on the roof with that roof access, though. That's cool. really enjoyed this spread. This is my other, you kind of not problem with the book, but just something I think could have made the book more interesting is that if there had been more of these type of sequences where there's really some sense of the modernist aesthetic in the artwork itself and not so much just on panels like this where it's just panel panel panel, or they're pretty tame page layouts. I think there could have been more play to make the book feel visually of that movement and of that era. So when you're getting compositions like this that are leaning into abstraction, I think they're really, really beautiful pieces in the book. But the majority of the book is kind of just a regular comic. This page as well is another one where I think the slowing down of the pace is really nice. Now, in a book where you feel like there's a lot more that could be added about the artist, a page like this feels maybe like a little bit of a throwaway. But I also think that a page like this leans into the modernist aesthetic a little bit more, where you've got like a focus on composition and form and just the slow movement, negative space versus positive space, just those simple kind of formal concerns. So I really like that, and I wish that I think I like the book enough that I wish it was longer and bigger, basically, and that there was more room for stuff like this, because this is the stuff where I really feel emotionally connected to the point of the book more, because they give me that visceral experience of the idea behind the aesthetics in the book. And then here at the end of the book, there's a bit where Le Corbusier has come in and bought the house, I believe, or he's at least been allowed in by Eileen's husband, and has painted murals. And I guess that's what made this house famous, was the Corbusier murals that got painted in it. And so it's pointing to the fact that Eileen was overlooked for her influence and was, basically under the shadow of a famous male architect and artist who came later, but was really kind of riding on her coattails. And he's in here bragging in this interview: the walls chosen to receive the paintings were the most insignificant, underutilized. Really, I animated them with my paintings. It's an immense transformation, the addition of spiritual value throughout. So this real arrogant, egomaniac type of approach to things. And I think that's an important piece of the book to give a sense of, everyone's heard of Le Corbusier, but I've never heard of Eileen Gray before. And so this book is going back and rectifying that. So yeah, really enjoyable book. Of course, it's by Nobrow, so especially these older Nobrow books have like really, really nice paper, really, really nice reproduction all throughout. And then it's just a fascinating, interesting look that kind of give me a taste for a character, and it's a good enough taste that I wish the book were longer.